1, 2, 3. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneur Life Podcast, your go-to podcast for all things entrepreneurship, accounting, and lifestyle. Today, I have with me Hannah Marsh. Hannah is a personal brand strategist and founder of both Hannah Marsh Co. and the Piccadilly Creative Collective. She thrives in helping entrepreneurs, especially women, build bright and beautiful brands that stand out in the crowd. She believes that you have something of value to offer the world and deserve to be seen and heard. Absolutely. Amazing. I'm so excited you're here.
Thanks, friend. I'm so excited to be here.
Same.
Such an honor.
Why don't you tell the people who you are, where you're from, a little bit about you?
Sure. So my name's Hannah, as you've heard. I am originally from the far north in the United States, from New Hampshire originally, and moved to Miami, Florida, just about, 6 years ago now. And as part of that move, relaunched my business to be really focused on personal brand strategy and helping especially female entrepreneurs tell their story. It's something I'm really passionate about, and it's been such an honor to go on that journey with so many women.
And what did you study? Were you always in branding and marketing and things?
No, okay. Absolutely. I was not. So I lived before, in between New Hampshire and coming to Miami, I lived in Washington, D.C. for about 16 years. I moved there because I knew that I wanted to study international development. I had a real heart for different cultures and languages, and even in growing up in small town, I just knew that was something that was part of me, part of my DNA. And so I ended up going to George Washington University and studying international development and Latin American studies.
Okay.
So I think my move to Miami was
it
was bound to happen at some point in time.
Yeah.
I think part of that, I actually went straight from that to working for the federal government. I worked for the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, for about 12 years. And it was a beautiful season, but I also realized as part of that my little creative soul was not meant to work in a gray cubicle.
Yeah.
Even though I so believe in the work that we do, and I'm so thankful for that experience. It taught me so much. I realized that I'm really an entrepreneur at heart. And so I was always looking for that. I was always looking for those entrepreneurial outlets. And that's actually where my first iteration of my business started, was in DC, kind of as a side hustle to the work that I was doing at USAID.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's such a common thing, right? That the entrepreneurship journey starts as a side hustle. It starts as I just need an outlet. I just need an outlet. And then I'll just do this on the side. And then, actually, that's where passion is. Anytime that there's passion, you can monetize anything you're passionate about.
So true.
Honestly, I think as millennials, we had to unlearn what we were taught, that the only way to success is go to college, have a corporate job, and work for somebody else, and your passion projects can only be hobbies. Gen Z doesn't have to unlearn that. No. But we did.
Yes, absolutely we
did. And I love that that's kind of a shift that's happening because we were created for so much more than just sitting, at a desk doing something that we don't love. Yeah. But I know there's been a lot of iterations of your business, right? Do you want to tell them a little bit about your journey?
Sure. I would love to. Join me on that. So to your point, I think though, before I jump into the journey, we'll say I was really blessed to come up in a family with an entrepreneurial spirit. Actually, the name Piccadilly is a reflection of my grandma. She was an entrepreneur herself. She had a very small thrift store in small town Pennsylvania. She called the Piccadilly Emporium.
Piccadilly Emporium.
Yes,
cute.
I know. And I've thought about it. I'm I don't actually think she knew of Piccadilly Circus in London. I think she probably just heard the word and was like, that word,
like that.
I love it. Which was so her and her personality. She was so full of life and vibrant and just loved people. And I think it was watching her in her store where I really caught the entrepreneurial bug. Yeah. And then my parents have been involved in ministry and nonprofits. And so just seeing that sort of drive and get up and go and say, hey, everything is figure outable. Let's do that. I think was in my DNA. So when I went to school and I started working, I loved what I was doing, but I saw needs. And I think as entrepreneurs, we're sort of wired to see needs around us and go, well, I can fix that. Yeah. I can help.
Yeah.
And I'm hugely motivated by helping. And so it started, I don't know how many years ago. I'm a little scared to count how many years now. 15 plus at least.
Yeah.
But it started, I had friends getting married, and I was sort of the one in our friend circle. They were like, hey, you know, can you help us make this look pretty? Can you help us organize? Can you help with flowers? And so I thought, well, I can do all of those things. I enjoy doing all of those things.
Yeah.
So that's what started. So really, my business started doing day of coordination and with, you know, DIY projects and all of that. And then
Pre-Pinterest?
Yeah.
This is about
I think so. You're really trying to date us here. Hold on.
I'm just trying to think of like, what would life have been like in the event world if there was no Pinterest?
That
That was more my question.
It was a lot of magazines. Like the magazine subscriptions alone.
Yeah.
God.
The ones that were like this thick.
Yes. Yeah. I would just like show
Trading
friends.
Co. What was it called? Oriental Trading Company?
Oh my God, don't remind me. No, I would show up at friends' houses. Like, see, people would have vision board parties and be like, I live for these moments. Did anyone have magazines? Yes. Like, yeah. So it started with, you know, day of coordination, and then quickly evolved to, you know, actually I really enjoy like more the visual aspects of it. And so it became styling. And then out of that, I realized, well, you know, it's not just weddings.
Yeah.
I really believe, and this is something I still believe to this day, that we need to take time to really celebrate the big and small moments. So I used to say like, hey, why are we not celebrating Tuesdays, random Tuesdays?
Yeah.
But like take time and enjoy life. And so it pivoted to become more of a party planning, and I built out a team and we had on our website this random reasons to party generator. And
Everyone
it was beautiful.
needs a random reasons to party generator.
Yeah, exactly. I think one of them was, you just found out that a group of flamingos is called a flamingo. I thought that's a reason. I know, right? That's my gift to you. Now that you
have a nugget.
That's the nugget. All right, we're done, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we can go.
That was all we needed.
That's all we needed. So yeah, just think.
A flamingo.
We're just gonna laugh this whole time. I already can tell. This is great. So I realized it was so fun, but every time it was like iterations of the business, and I was like, this is great, and I love it, but it's not quite it, and it's not quite taking off, and I don't quite understand, and it felt purposeful, and it felt special, but like things kept evolving. And so a couple of years after that, I actually decided to make the move to Miami, and it felt like a time to take a pause with the business. I, in some ways, was like, okay, I'm making some really big life changes. We're moving to a whole new city. I don't really know anyone there, but I knew like in my heart, this is where I was supposed to be planted. This was going to be home. This is where I wanted to put down roots and build. And so I put pause on the business and said, you know, I'm going to take some time to recharge. I'd gone through some really difficult personal things that had drained me. And by the time I got here, I felt really burned out. So I moved to the beach. You know, I worked a wonderful, 9 to 5, and would spend my evenings just walking on the beach and praying. I'm a person of faith. And so my relationship with God is something that is a huge source of strength and really a guiding factor in my life. And so I would just have conversations with God in the evenings and go, God, this is a dream, and I think you put it in my heart, this business, and I think, you made me this way, this desire to give back and to serve in these ways. But what is it supposed to look like? Like, what's it supposed to be in this next season? And through that process and just the people that I connected with and some coaches that I had in my life, I started to see the through line in all of the different iterations of business. And the through line for me was, I loved working with female entrepreneurs. I loved storytelling, and I loved making things look beautiful, like cohesion, the beauty of all of it tying together. And so I realized that's really the brand strategy and development process. And I loved every time we launched a new iteration.
My language, girl. I'm like so enamored right now by everything that you're saying. I'm probably just like staring at you because I'm like, this is
I told
beautiful.
you kindred spirits from the pink. You had me at the pink. But I think realizing that there's a through line. So all of those different iterations were not wasted.
Right.
And I think that's something God's helped me see, even looking back with grace on my own life, because I could go, oh my God, 10, 15 years of trying something like, nope, not that.
Yeah.
But going, no, actually, all of that was building. All of that was learning. all of that, the relationships that I built in that season are some of the most impactful and have helped me launch the new iteration of my business in this season. The connections, the growth, like I wouldn't trade any of it.
Yeah.
And so out of that, I realized no brand strategy. I went and got more training. It was the thing that I read about for fun. You know, they say, what was it, 10,000 hours or something? You become an expert. Well, like, listen, I had clocked that in reading and YouTube and all of that around brand strategy. And it was just also something that felt like a natural alignment with my gifts. And so in, I want to say it was 2021, I started taking clients on that 2020, 2021. I don't know. Let's be honest, that whole season of history, blur.
Full blur.
So sometime in there, the land before time, I started working with clients one-on-one, doing that. And then actually spring of last year, I felt really convicted that I was telling everyone else that they needed to step out as the face of their brand, all while hiding myself.
Yeah.
Because isn't that like...
What we do.
It's the challenge.
It's way easier to give advice to other people than to take your own advice yourself. I can't tell you how many times I filed tax extensions. Like, because I put all my clients' work before my own. And then tax time comes and I'm like, I didn't even stop and do my own because I was so busy helping my clients. So
100%.
That's just like, as an entrepreneur, you often put yourself last.
Yeah.
And then it's like, no, actually, I can't put myself last. I have to be the one to step out and go first.
100%.
Leaders go first.
Leaders go first. Exactly. And I think also, like having grace for yourself in that process to go, no, okay, this is because I care about this, because I care about other people. Right. And this is something on the inside of me. So it has to come out. So yes, that was the point where I felt that prompting that, well, let's be honest. I felt that push.
The kick in the butt.
The kick in the butt. The kick in the butt to go, hey, you have to stop hiding.
Yeah.
You're telling other people to step out, to show up. You have to show up. And so in August of last year, we launched my own personal brand, Marsh.co. And it's been beautiful, really, uncomfortable. Let's be honest. Like, I talk with clients and people about imposter syndrome, not from a place of having read about it, but from a place of like living it and overcoming these challenges of insecurity and confidence and all of that. But it's been so beautiful because when you face something, like when you face the thing you fear, it loses its power.
Right.
And the world gets that much bigger. So it's been a beautiful process. But I call that whole thing the creative evolution.
The creative evolution. You're welcome.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That and the flamingos.
Yeah.
You know, and there you,
Flamingo.
Yeah, flamingo.
I'm stuck on that.
No, wait. You know what? I think I even said it. It's called a flamboyance.
A flamboyant is a group of flamingos.
That's great. I gave wrong information.
I kind of like the flamingo.
I know. Never mind.
Keep the flamingo.
Yeah. People are going to be fact checking you though and being like, actually, it's a flamboyant.
For the Instagram fact checkers.
Sorry. I got to work on my flamingo facts. Gosh, I'm out of the game, man. I'll work on it.
I'm here for all of it. I'm keeping flamingo.
Keeping flamingo. Okay, great. That's what we're doing right now. We're flamingoing.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I'm sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. I'm here for all of it.
We're recording on a Friday afternoon.
That's right. We're flamingoing.
Yes.
Yeah. Forever. Evolution.
Yeah.
I remember when I was first learning about kind of the evolution of your business and all the different phases that you've gone through, and just being like, how many times as entrepreneurs do we feel like this is what I created, so I have to keep it going? You know what I mean? Or this was the vision, so I don't want to steer clear of that. Like, I'm getting off on the wrong foot, or I'm just kind of like veering off to one side, and I can't close the business, and I don't want to close the business, it's my baby. But at the same time, like, how many entrepreneurs that are successful and 20, 30 years into their entrepreneurial journey, and they've started and shut down tons of businesses, right? And it's perfectly acceptable to start a company and then 2 years into it, or 5 years, or 10 years into it, or 6 months into it, be like, actually, this isn't what I want, or actually, this isn't the right path, or I tried it, but I'm going to close it, or I'm going to pivot. And realizing like that doesn't make you a failure.
No, not at all.
You know, like having to change the company that you built or even close the company you built doesn't make you a failure. It actually makes you a more successful entrepreneur, because you're figuring out, okay, that didn't work. Let's pivot. Let's refocus. Let's realign. Like, re-brainstorm.
Yep.
That's part of entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah.
It's the figure outable, like you said, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's really refreshing sometimes to hear other people that are on that's happened to them. It's like, you're not the only one.
So not the only one. And, you know, I heard it said recently, I mean, there's so much we could look at, like our world today and the market, and like so many things are changing. It's been said so many times, change is the only constant, and it's true. But I think as we see the rise of AI and other things going on, like you're only going to see the need to change and adapt that much more. And so
Faster.
If the muscle that you can build, and I think the one that we need to the most, really strength train, is adaptability. Like that, I think, is going to be the key to success for so many of us, is to say, okay, we're here. Okay, we thought it was this. Okay, we're going to change and adjust and change and adjust and be willing and hold things with an open hand. Now, what I don't mean for that is, like, I'm a big believer when I work with clients, we always start from your why, like Simon Sinek talks about in his Golden
Love
Circle.
Simon Sinek.
I know, right? He talks about you have to start successful, inspirational businesses start from the inside out. They know their why. They're not just talking about, you know, what they produce, but they know why they produce it. And it's the why that people want to buy into. It's the why that people want to join. So I believe that we all have purpose. I believe that, you know, successful, meaningful, significant businesses should start from a place of purpose. And so when I'm walking with a client, I always say, hey, let's start. Why do we feel like we exist? Why are you here on earth? Like, what is it that you feel like is your unique gifting to give? How are you uniquely gifted to serve the world? What is that? Let's start from that. I don't think purpose changes. I think purpose like grows and like we learn more about it, but I don't think purpose changes. Now, what I think can change and where we can adapt is what do we do as walking out that purpose. And so, you know, mission and vision for your business of going, this is, you know, where we want to head and how we want to do it. Okay, yeah, we might make some adjustments and things. And that's what I work with clients on, but your purpose doesn't change. So for me, I feel like my purpose has a lot to do with helping people understand their value and use their voice, step out and use their voice. Now, my mission in this season is to help female entrepreneurs elevate their voices in every industry and at every level. But that might adjust, you know, in different seasons. Like when I was talking about when I worked in international development, you know, how I walked out my purpose of helping others understand their value looked different than it does in this season. And frankly, I'm walking out my purpose in a couple different, it's not just my business. I'm walking it out in, you know, where I volunteer and how I spend my free time and the friendships that I have. So I think all of that plays together. So when we can hold the methods with an open hand and say, okay, we're open to adjusting and pivoting and knowing that in different seasons of life, we'll walk out our purpose differently. I think it's very freeing. I think it infuses a lot of grace into our lives, which I think we need so much more of. And I also think it opens you to so many more possibilities.
I love that. I love the way that you gave language to it, because I think so many people, it's like, I know what I'm trying to do, but I don't really know how to get there. And so maybe the how is changing or the what is changing, but the why isn't changing, you know? And I just love the way that you framed that and gave language to it, because sometimes it can be really grace-giving and peace-giving to just have language to something that you feel, but you don't really know how to explain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you can give language to it, it almost gives it like an organization in your mind. You can like put it in its place because now it has language. You know, I think that's one thing that you do really well, is give language to things that are complex.
Thank you.
And that's totally a gift.
Thank you.
Know, to be able to do that.
Yeah, I thank you. I receive that. I hear that. I think I'm starting to observe that as I'm working with clients too, because a lot of times, you know, an entrepreneur will come to me and like, I think it's in our DNA as entrepreneurs that we're like multi-passionate and like we want to do all the things and everything in all the places. And so one of the things I sit down and go, okay, like where do we take all these and what are the buckets that we put all this information into, and what's the through line? What's the red line that ties all of this together? That's the story. Like that's the purpose. That's the mission. Let's call that out and speak to it. And then it gives place for all these things. And I think clarity is one of the kindest things we can do for ourselves. I think clarity is kind, clarity is so empowering, and it helps us move. I think one of the things I've struggled with in my life is this indecisiveness. And I see it a lot around. I think it's kind of natural. I heard somebody describe it as this, that a lot of people will bump up against decisions their whole lives rather than actually making the decision. And so I think going through this process, deciding to go, hey, this information, I'm going to put it here. Okay, I'm going to say, this is my purpose. This is the mission I'm stepping into. All of that are decisions that are providing clarity, which is kind to you. It's kind to your mental health. It's kind to your family and those around you, but also just brings so much clarity and moving forward.
I couldn't agree more. And it takes creating space to do the things that like you do with your clients, you know. And so many entrepreneurs, we run on burnout.
Oh yeah.
We run ourselves into the ground. Hustle culture is real, you know. Do you have any tips for like, it's hard to get to a creative space when you're so in the weeds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you're doing everything yourself before you've taken the time or even have the funds to hire somebody to help you, and you're just doing everything and you're wearing all the hats, it's really hard to like step back. You know, do you have any tips for people who are like, okay, I might not have the finances, or I might not have the resources, or I might not have the time to work with you right now, but like, is there like a first step to that?
No, I think that's beautiful. I think what you're describing is what so many of us, like the challenge that we have and the balance we have to find, which is working on the business, not just in the business.
Yes.
So you can spend and get so sucked into working in the business. I was saying this to one of the women who works with me this week, that like we've got to time out. Like things have been going so busy. We're working in the business at a greater percentage than we're working on the business. And so like we need to set aside time to do that. So I understand. So I say that to say, I understand the challenge. I'm in it, you know, myself and working with it. I don't think there's like some magical formula. I think you make time for what you see value in. And I think when you see the value to go, I can't continue at this pace, you make time.
Yes.
And so even if it's an hour a day, or you start your day with, you know, time on your calendar, you make a date with yourself to say, I'm going to take time to think big thoughts. I heard this story once, and I'm going to butcher it because I can't remember the name, but it was this, you know, big general in the military, talk about pressure, talk about competing priorities, talk about a lot of things, very high level. And he was interviewing, they said, how do you do it all? And he said, oh, I schedule time for big thoughts at the beginning of every day. And I think there's something to that. I'm not in a place where I can do it every day, but I do set aside time in my schedule regularly to go, okay, I need to think about why I'm doing this. And the realization too, that you will save yourself time, energy, and money in the long term by getting your foundation straight. Like, this is foundational. What we're talking about, brand strategy, this is foundational stuff. You can jump to marketing. There is every coach in the book that will tell you 3 steps to, you know,
just
market
make the reels.
Yeah, three steps to 6 figures. Like, I'm just not in that business. Like, I really believe you've got to start from foundation. You get that. Focus on health of your business. Focus on setting it well, because at the end of the day, healthy things grow, and you are building something that will last, and you're building something of significance, not, you know, a quick one-hit wonder.
Playing the long game.
Playing the long game. Exactly.
Beautiful. It's so easy to get caught up in that, and even to get caught up in like hustle culture. Like, what's your take on the whole hustle culture thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I heard this phrase that really I just took to heart and has become almost like a mantra for me, which is grace over hustle.
We love this. I love that.
Right? It just like let that sink in. And when I'm talking about grace, I think about grace in a couple different definitions. I mean, sometimes it's thrown around and it's like forgiveness and like, oh, you know, it's over, you know, taking over and covering up when you mess up. Yes, it's that. But there's also, you know, when we use the phrase, well, somebody's grace to do that. What's also that other definition, which is like grace that empowers you to go beyond. It's like a favor that says, you know, this is like a natural gifting. Like, this is something that flows for you, rather than hustle, which is so much striving, so much about being in your own strength and trying to figure it all out and be self-made. And
I hate that term, self-made.
I do too. my gosh, we could have a whole other podcast just
I'm
on that.
self-made. Yeah.
Nobody's self-made.
You're not self-made.
Nobody's self-made.
No.
You have, like, listen, there's
Yeah.
a community around you at any point in time that have invested blood, sweat, and tears. And if you don't see it, then there's a problem.
That's a different issue.
It's a different issue, and start paying attention. No, I think this idea of grace over hustle, like there's so much in the entrepreneurial world around hustle and grind where you gotta like get out there, hit the pavement, work harder, do this,
Don't
do
sleep.
that. Don't sleep. Exactly. Sleep when I'm dead. No, I'm going to sleep regularly.
Now.
I'm going to take a nap every once in a while. I believe rest is part of a productive life. And when things are ordered correctly, things flow. Mm-hmm. And so when things come into alignment, I've been going on a journey going back to the chiropractor, and that is a whole revelation in and of itself. Like when things in your body are in alignment, things flow and work function better. I think that's a lot of grace. Bringing things into alignment, favor that empowers you to go. It's not grace to do everything, but it's grace to do the things that you are purposed to do.
Right.
Striving says you've got to do it all. You've got to work harder. Like, don't stop. Don't never breathe, never rest. And grace says, no, you are graced to do something for such a time as like right now, that you're here with a purpose and you have gifts and talents and things that are going to help serve the world. And I just think that's so much better. Like, I'm a big believer in hard work. Like, don't get me wrong. It's not naps all the time. But hard work is different than hustle.
Agreed.
And I'm just not here for it. Yeah. I want grace every day. I want grace that flows, that directs me. And I want to walk in what I'm specifically graced to do, not what somebody else is graced to do, what I'm specifically graced to do.
I love that. And it's so foundational to, like, even if you go back to, like, the story of creation, right? Striving would be working 7 days a week. Why? Because I can work more hours, I can make more money. Yeah. Right? Grace says, I'm going to work 5 or 6 days a week and take a day of rest because the Lord did that as an example for us, not to us. We have the opportunity to work 5 or 6 days a week and believe that in our taking a day of rest that he's going to do more for us and on us and over us than we could do in hustling 7 days a week. And I think that's like the perfect example of like grace over hustle, is like work and rest. And in the rest, you're having faith that more will be done this way.
Absolutely. I heard it said recently too, and again, the flamingo fact checkers get checked. But I actually believe like it's not work 6 days and then rest. It's actually rest and then work 6 days. And it's actually out of rest and out of this place of not just rest like sleeping, but like rest of like I'm settled, I'm grounded, I am connected where I need to be, and like a peace and harmony. It's out of that our best work can come. And I think that's the balance or the flow that I want to see in my own life. I'm not there 100% yet. Don't get me wrong.
Same.
Don't get me wrong. But that's the vision that I am positioning myself towards.
There's a book that I bought recently that Pastor Rich talks about a lot that I haven't read yet, but it's on my list, called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. Have you read it?
I have not read it.
I bought it. I haven't read it yet, but it's on my list.
It needs a good long plane ride. Yeah. Which I hear you have one coming up.
I do. Yeah, I have a couple actually. Yeah. So I really want to dig into that, but I've heard sermons about the book. I think it's John Mark Comer. Again, the Flamingo fact checkers can check that. But but I was just telling someone this morning, like, even my days are so full. Yeah. Even when I'm like in alignment and doing what I'm supposed to, like, I'm like, okay, if I get up at 6:30, I can have my quiet time from 6:30 to 8. Then I can shower and have my coffee from, 8 to 8:30. And then I put my makeup on and get dressed. And then I'm at my desk by 9. And then I have appointments with, I work until 12. And I have appointments with clients from 12 to 5. And it's like, I don't necessarily want my days to be so scheduled. It's not that there's anything wrong with that life, but it's like, I can never just sit. Yeah. Because it's like, even when I'm doing my prayer time, it's like I've scheduled an hour and a half for it, but there's still like, I have to actually get up and do that in that hour and a half, because then there's things after that. You know what I mean? And so when I think about that book that I want to read,
Yeah.
just that was how my mother was when I was growing up, is she was always kind of like in a hurry to go do things. And it wasn't necessarily like going out to do things. It was like, don't interrupt my flow because I have to get up at this time, because I have my workout class at this time, because I have my prayer meeting at this time, and I have my work stuff at this time. And it was like, I always had to be conscious of the fact that she always had a schedule, and I always kind of had to like, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I grew up with like, that's the mentality of a successful person, because my mom is an entrepreneur. And so it was like, that's what success looks like. Success looks like busyness. Success looks like having a Google calendar that you stick to. Success looks like everything is scheduled so that it gets done, so you're productive.
Yeah.
Because that's where your value comes in. And I've had to I struggled with an autoimmune for the last 3 years, you know? I had to unlearn that. Yeah. I would lay in bed for weeks, not able to get up. Wow. And just feel like so worthless. Sorry. You know? Yeah. And the Lord had to take me through something in that season of like, your productivity does not define your value. It is not, it doesn't even define if you're successful or not. I was like, I'm such a loser. And then I wouldn't feel well. And so I would just be like, I laid on the couch. People, how was your day? It's fine. I laid on the couch all day. I'm so lazy. I just thought I was so lazy. I'm so lazy. Why am I so lazy? I didn't used to be lazy. What happened that I'm so lazy? Yeah. I didn't realize to the extent that I was internally sick, but I didn't. It took almost 2 years for me to get a diagnosis. So like, I just knew that I was really tired and really sick, but I didn't know why. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And so I just was like, when did I get so lazy? When did I become so worthless?
We're so like, hard on ourselves.
Yeah. And the Lord was like, if you did nothing today, it would not change at all.
Right.
Your value.
Right.
And that's when it started to like unravel the life that I had defined as successful. Not to say that what my mom did was wrong. It's not wrong. No, exactly. But, you know, more is caught than taught. And so I caught that is success. Right. And when that's removed, then we're not successful. Yeah. And I think as entrepreneurs, did you read the book, The 4-Hour Workweek, Tim Ferriss? Yeah, I've heard him say I love that book, not because I want to live and die working 4 hours a week, but because I feel like it can give you such a paradigm shift of success doesn't look like working 40 to 80 hours a week.
No, it doesn't.
You can be successful in work. Yeah, you get to choose what your life looks like.
You get to define what success looks like. I think the trap within us as entrepreneurs is like to live in reaction. I don't know where along the way I internalized this. Well, if you're your own boss, like, don't be lazy, don't sit on the couch. You have to prove your worth and value by being busy so that society sees you as like valuable. And so you got to work all the time. And I mean, living by to-do lists. I am the queen of this. I write myself to-do lists on the weekend, and I'm like, no, this is wrong. But it's like living in reaction to what might be said, rather than the intention of going, no, this is how I want to live my life. And that's the beauty. I don't know. I think a lot of people go into becoming an entrepreneur because they want to be able to decide what their life and schedule, and that freedom is. And yet we build our own cage again of going, no, but I have to, and I can't be seen this way, or don't want to be perceived. And again, I think this is where grace comes into it. Like, that's not the purpose of life, is not living to-do list task. Like, as gratifying it is to check that thing off. Let's be honest.
Sometimes I'll do something and then I'll go write it on my to-do list just to check off that I did it.
1,000%. I do that all the time.
Like, oh, I went to UPS. That was annoying. Check. Let me write it on my to-do list. And
I deserve a check for that. Like, listen, no, 100%. Like, that is, I know I'm wired that way, but I love what you're sharing, because there is an unlearning process, I think, that we probably all have to go through in one way or another to go, okay, but no, like, that's what I've seen, but is that how I want to live? Is that the intention that I want to bring into my business and into my life? And then really making those decisions and positioning yourself. It doesn't mean it's not perfection. We're not going to get it right all the time. I have not arrived at perfect balance, like not even close. Yeah. But it's going, no, but that's what I want to work towards. Like, that's what I'm believing is possible. I think that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Of course. The thing that I was thinking when you were talking is, I heard this phrase, I don't know where it came from, but they said, we're human beings, not human doings. Yes. Like, your value comes from the fact from who you are. And that is a child of God. Like, you're not who you are because you're self-made. You're not who you are because you're an entrepreneur. You're not who you are because ABCD. Like, what you are is a child of God because you are a creation of a creator, right?
Yep.
And in being that, he created you as a human being. So by being, you by definition have value, right?
Exactly.
And so we think like, oh, I'm a human. We act as though we're human doings. It's what I do that makes me valuable. And that's just not the case. It would be like a child, you know, like a 2-year-old or even younger, right? They're not doing anything to earn the love of their parents. Their parents love them because they were born. Like the parent loves them because they exist.
Yeah.
They are being. They can't do anything, right? And it's like we forget that when we are adults, or even like when we don't have kids. I think my friends who have kids, they almost get like a peek into how God sees us. Yeah. Because they're in that, you know, whereas I don't have kids. Most of my friends don't have kids, at least not in Miami. My Miami friends, none of them have kids, right? Young entrepreneur world. But I think sometimes we forget that.
No, I think you're right. When you were talking, one of the pictures that came to mind, and I've heard this before, but like when you look at a painting, like its value is not that it's like out there doing anything. It is literally a reflection of the artist.
Right.
And the value is in who the artist is. And so we show up on the scene. We're not like, you know, some of us are minimalist paintings. Some of us are maximalists. Some of us are very bright.
All the glitter.
All the glitter. But one is, you know, the value of it really doesn't come from anything that I'm doing, anything that the painting is doing. It's really, it's because of that little signature in the right-hand corner, or it's because of who the artist is. And I think, you know, when we're talking about faith, it's, and value, I think that relationship with God as like a person of faith, like I believe so much of the foundation for my business and how I show up in the world is because I can stand knowing like, no, I'm created for a purpose. Yeah. And I'm here. And there is something of value in my hand. And I may never see my name in big lights. That may not be the goal. I may never know, but I know that I'm just called to be faithful with what's in my hand. So I actually, I think that really is the answer to all of the problems that we face in the world. Like we can look at things, and if we can look at problems like homelessness or human trafficking and go, oh my God, I'm just one person. Like I can't do anything. And so if we don't value what we have in our hands, we don't act. We don't do anything. But if we can understand the value of what you have in your hand, and you don't say that's not enough, but just say, hey, well, this is what I have. I'm going to bring this to the table. You create a ripple effect. Right. Because when you step up and use what's in your hand, somebody else sees that and steps up and uses what's in their hand. Right. And it creates a ripple effect. And I really think that's how we change the world. That's how we take on things like human trafficking or hunger. It's just being faithful with what you have in your hand. You don't have to do it all. Like you shouldn't do it all. Right. But just be faithful. Yeah. Use what you're uniquely gifted and talented to do. Whether that's accounting and you're really good at Excel spreadsheet, whether that's like throwing glitter. I make a really great Pinterest board. Whatever it is, but just be faithful to bring that to the table. And I think it's beautiful how that can, I really believe, change the world.
I agree. When I went to Cambodia in March, I went with Iris, which is an organization I'm going to go working with here in August.
I'm so excited about that, by the way.
Thank you. I'm so excited too. But one of the things that I had to fill out a document recently that asked, who's your hero? And I never really had a hero. I don't, there's not something I really ever thought of. But the thing that came to mind was something that Heidi Baker had said. And I can't remember if I heard it when she was speaking, or if I read her book, one of her books. I don't know where I got it from, or maybe it's just because we were on an Iris trip. That's her organization. Maybe one of the trip leaders had said it. I don't remember where I got it, but her whole like tagline, and it's her organization is called Iris, but then they have a sponsorship program called Stop for the One, and that is her like tagline, or her mission statement is somehow related to this phrase of stop for the one. And when we were doing this human trafficking work, I would come home at night from that. We're doing it was child trafficking, like
Yeah.
5 and 6 year olds, like little kids. And
It's hard to comprehend.
it was just, the weight of it was so heavy. I remember coming home or coming back like to the hotel and just standing in the shower and just letting the water run and being like, I can't even, like, I don't even know what to do about this. You know, it just seems like the problem is so grand and I'm so granular, you know, like, how do you stop child trafficking? It just seemed like such a massive problem. And it's one thing to know about it, and it's another thing to witness it. Like, a child got trafficked right out of our kids club, like right in front of our eyes. And then we did some work in the red light district, and we were literally watching it happen. And it was, the weight of that was just so strong, you know? And I'm like, Lord, how do you eradicate something so big, you know? And I remembered Heidi's phrase of just stop for the one in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, all you have to do is focus on the person in front of you. You don't have to focus on the problem. Don't think about the problem at large. Don't think about the problem as a whole. The only thing that you are to do is to minister and speak life into the person in front of you.
Yep.
And if all you did that day, like, we did work in the red light district where we would go into bars and we weren't praying for anybody out loud.
Yeah.
We weren't trying to rescue them from the work they were doing. We weren't taking them out. All we did was go into the bars and basically hire them to just sit and chat with us. And the girls were so excited to hang out with us, you know, and there was a guy sitting behind us in the bar, and he did not like us being there.
Of course not.
And he was making faces at us and glaring at us and being like, what are you guys here for? And we're like, we're just here to hang out, you know? And he ended up leaving. And I was just thinking, if all we did tonight, besides give them a safe place to chat, is save one of them from having to have gone home with him.
Yeah.
That was it. And they kept touching me. They were like grabbing my arm, and like one of them was like petting my leg, another kept squeezing my hand. And I asked one of the, because it was just 4 of us in this bar. It wasn't like we had brought all 26 of us. You know, it was like the red light district is like all the bars lined up and all the prostitutes are there. And we were in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. And I was like, why do they keep touching me? And she said, because they feel so safe around you that they don't get safe physical touch. Right? And so they get to have their physical touch love tanks filled right now by holding your hand.
Yeah.
Because it's a safe place for them to receive that sort of love without there being any threat to them.
Wow.
And all we did was be like, most of them had kids. Show us pictures of your kids. What province? Because most of them are not from the city. They're from the provinces, right? What province are you from? Like, tell us about your life. And they wanted to ask us questions. And they had so much fun. They were so giggly. And they were so young, some of them. And, like, it was just so special. And I thought, like, doing red light ministry was going to be really hard and really heavy. And that was one of the easiest things that we did on that trip. Not because of the situation was light, but because instead of looking at the problem as a whole, I'm just going to focus on these 4 girls that are sitting next to me who just needed a night off and just a night to feel, like, safe and loved. We ended up praying for them. They asked for us to pray for them. Like, it was just crazy what the Lord was doing, you know, and it was just so special, and it felt so light, and it sounds weird almost, but it felt joyful.
Yeah.
You know, like it didn't have to be the super heavy, hard thing. We just got to hang out with some girls who then didn't have to go home with anyone that night because we were paying for them. They could stay with us.
Yeah. Well, and in that moment, you used what was in your hand. Like, you didn't have all the solutions. Obviously, there's lots more to be done, but you were able to be faithful and say, hey, but I can help in this way. And that matters. And who knows the ripple effect of that. And, you know, you being faithful to do that one thing, hopefully, like, other people are doing the same, and it becomes this ripple effect of going, okay, we can actually affect change. And I think that's so much of coming back just to, like, the business side of things, where we feel like, well, I have to do all the things and I have to solve all the needs, because, like I said at the beginning, as entrepreneurs, we're kind of wired to see, like, the need and be try to fix it and go,
solution bringers.
Exactly. We're solution bringers. And it's a beautiful thing, but it can also, the flip side of that is it can be exhausting.
Yeah.
And you can run yourself to the ground going, but I can't do it all.
Always trying to pour out.
And always trying to do all the things and hands in all the pots and great. But I think it just comes back to, hey, what we're asked to just be faithful with what you have in your hand to do. Mm-hmm. What's the next thing? Mm-hmm. Who's the person in front of you? What's the next step in front of you? Be faithful there. Mm-hmm. Do it to the best of your ability. Do it like God is watching, because he is.
Yeah.
And like the next door, the next opportunity will come and it will grow from there. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful.
Perfect. I love it. I love like partnering kind of personal passions with business purpose. Do you think that people have, when you're talking about like purpose and mission statement and vision mm-hmm. and all these things, is it a personal mission and then the business is the carry outer of the personal purpose and the personal mission, or we have a personal mission and purpose and we have a business mission and purpose, or like what? A lot of P's in there. What is kind of like your take on that?
No, I think that's a great question. So I always start, because I'm a personal brand strategist, so I really do work with individuals more. So I always start really from a personal purpose, because I do, again, believe everyone has a personal purpose. Mm-hmm. Your business may have a purpose that is slightly different than your personal purpose, but I think there's going to be some alignment and some overlap probably there. Mm-hmm. And same with mission. If you're the founder of it, there's probably some linkage. Yeah. You know, it might not be, the business may not be the be all end all of your personal purpose, but I think it's probably it's probably a branch of that, probably an outworking. I think it's kind of an effort or an exercise in futility to try to like separate them or feel this need to separate them. Like, I don't think I'm saying anything new, but like, you know, when you're starting a business, it's blood, sweat, and tears. And so, right. Maybe you don't feel like your purpose is to do, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like your purpose is to be a fitness, instructor, trainer, or a coach. But there might be something in that's an offshoot. Maybe you feel like your purpose is helping people feel more confident, or helping people step into their purpose, or maybe simply helping people. And this is a way that you're walking that out. So I don't think they're always like exactly the same, but mm-hmm. I'm hard pressed to think of an example where there's not some linkage there.
Yeah. I tend to think, I usually, when I'm describing accounting, I tell people it's my vehicle. Mm-hmm. Like the accounting is the vehicle mm-hmm. of the purpose. Yeah. Right? Like it's also, the accounting business is the one that's the most financially profitable. Mm-hmm. And so it can fund all the passion projects.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's important to recognize that like the vehicle is not necessarily, and it can be, but it's often not the purpose. Mm-hmm. It's not just to make money. It's not just to, if you're out there making a business because it's like, oh, I can make money doing this, like go back and do some deeper work. You know, there's probably more to it. Yeah. And that might be the vehicle that's going to get you there, because it's going to be financially profitable. And let's be real, you need money. Like,
yeah, of course. Yeah. No, I like what you're saying. I think that's really true. And I've heard it said like some companies, some jobs, they may not be your be all end all purpose, but it is what, enables you to do things that feel more purposeful. I would caution again though to say like, I think every business has purpose. Mm-hmm. And I actually think there's probably some linkage or should be some linkage where you're feeling purposeful and you're showing up. But again, you're going to see a need and work to fill it, whether that feels like the be all end all. I don't think we should get into the business of trying to turn all of our business ventures into our passion projects. Mm-hmm. Like it may, at the end of the day, it's going to feel like work, and it's going to be work. But finding the purpose and mission in it to go, okay, this is not the be all end all of my purpose. This may be allowing and me a platform to allow me to do more of be all end all, but there is still some linkage to purpose. And so I'm going to show up and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, and walk that out in that way.
Makes sense.
That's my thought.
Love it.
Thanks, friend.
So just to wrap up a little
Sure.
bit, what would you say is like, do you have like a one thing? We always end on a one thing. What's the one thing if you could give the entrepreneurs something that they could do today or implement today that would really move the needle for their business?
Sure.
That's like, okay, that's a lot of great abstract ideas, but like what's something I could implement right now?
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great question. I would say schedule an hour in your calendar. Get somewhere out of the ordinary. So don't go to the same place where you work in your business all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a coffee shop.
Change of scenery.
Change of scenery. Change of scenery. One of my former pastors, Mark Batterson, used to say, change of place plus change of pace equals change of perspective. And I love that.
I love
So
that.
good. So take like an hour, or, if you can take a morning, even better, but go somewhere that's different. Get a favorite coffee, get a journal, bring your laptop. But take time to think about your why. Ask yourself some hard questions. Think about why you are showing up and doing what you're doing. Why you started the business. Why are you here? Just to start getting clear. And it doesn't I think release yourself from the fear of the limitation of what could be possible or what I can accomplish, or, what is my business already doing? Just step back for a second and go why do I want to show up every day? What is fueling the tank? What feels purposeful and missional to me? Mm-hmm. Start there. And once you have some clarity on that, I think everything else flows out of that, and you'll start to see some greater alignment and hopefully some greater fulfillment in your day-to-day.
Yeah, that's so good. And read Simon Sinek's book if you need more questions. If you have more questions, he spoke at a conference, at the QuickBooks conference actually last year. Simon Sinek was one of the guest speakers, and I was like, oh, I'm here for this, But I think even levels of why, okay, what do I love about my business? Why do I love it? You can ask, but why? And sometimes you get more clarity that when you get an answer than asking, okay, why about that answer? Do you ever do that of I don't remember who, I read that in a book somewhere, just levels of.
Yeah. I don't even always ask the question why. I say start with why. Okay. But sometimes I ask more questions like what brings me joy in the day to day? What are there things there I show up and I just feel so fulfilled, time either stands still or just I don't even realize it's past. What are those things that matter to you? What are the things that bring you incredible amounts, stand out to you, bring you incredible amounts of joy? What are the things that really almost irrationally make you
really
mad? What's it? There's purpose to be found in there.
Yeah.
There's an old movie that I watched way back in the day called Chariots of Fire, and it's about this British guy who's a runner, and very inspirational story. But he's asked the question in the story, why do you run? Because I think at the beginning he wasn't very good, and he comes, and the response was, because I feel his pleasure when I run. And I think that to me felt like such a statement as a person of faith to go, what are the things where I just feel this sense of everything is coming together, things are working, it's flowing, I love this, there's purpose here. This is why. This is why I show up. So those are some of the questions that I ask.
So good.
Yeah.
So now you have your implementable strategy for the quarter.
There you go.
It's been so fun having you.
you.
Where can people find you?
Absolutely. So you can find me at hannahmarsh.co. That's the website. That is also the Instagram handle, trying to make it simple for people.
Cohesive brand story. I love it.
Yeah, cohesive. I believe it show up consistently everywhere as much as you can. So I'd love to. I love literally the thing that I just get so much joy out of is coming alongside entrepreneurs on their journey and listening to the story. I consider it such a privilege and honor to just hear the dreams that people have in their heart, hear the passion and the purpose in them, and to be able to come alongside and walk with them and help and coach and say, hey, have you thought about it this way? That to me brings so much joy. And so that's what I love to do. It's why I'm going to keep showing up, helping people get clear on why they're here and how they can best serve the world. what's better?
Nothing.
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 That's what I think.
Yeah. I love that. Thanks so much for coming and being on the show.
Thank you, friend.
It's been such a pleasure interviewing you and just hearing your heart on different things.
Thank you.
It just brings me so much joy.
Thank you. I feel so honored. Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks everyone for tuning into another episode of the Entrepreneur Life Podcast. And remember, today's a great day to start a business. Bye.